La emisión está comenzando. Todos los asistentes están en modo de solo escucha.
Hello, good morning everybody. So let's start with our third session of the architect course, and let's take a look into what we're going to see today. So for day 3 we have database connections and reporting. This is what we're going to take a look into today, and we're going to take a look actually to what PM tables are, what report tables are. We're going to take a look into database connections. We'll also take a deeper look into the SQL property to populate Dynaform fields. We will take a deeper look into dependent fields in our Dynaforms. We'll also take a look to the advanced dashboards enterprise plugin in Process Maker. We will take a look into the KPIs or the key performance indicators. We'll also take a look into the service level agreements plugin that we have, and finally we'll take a look into the data reporting tools plugin in order to learn how to build our own reports, customize the reports. Okay, so let's start. Let me get here. Okay, so here we are. We have the database connections and reporting section here, and let's start by opening the tables documentation. Let's take a look into this. Okay, so Process Maker offers the option to create your own tables inside the main database, which is the WF underscore and the name of the workspace. So you can see we have a quick sample here. It's WF underscore your database name. The default one will be WF underscore workflow, and the only change will be this one. They will change and use your workspace name for. Well, in my case, for instance, will be the login. Okay, so so my database will be WF underscore Ronald Richter. That's the database it's going to use in my case. It would change with the name of the workspace for each of you. So once we create a PM table, our PM table will be stored in this database, and that means we'll be able to actually interact and work with this table's data. So we can add some columns to this table, add some data. We can also import data from another source, and then we can use these PM tables to fill our Dynaforms, to populate fields in our Dynaforms, like drop downs or suggest fields or group boxes or anything you need. You can also use these PM tables in triggers, and we're going to take a look into how to create these PM tables. Okay, so let's start by going to Process Maker here. Let's go to the Admin tab here, and here we have the option on the left side menu under Settings. We have PM tables. Okay, and this is something important. Note that in order to use PM tables, you must have this permission in your role, which is PM set up PM tables. At the moment I'm using the admin user, and I guess all of you are using your admin user, so you don't have any trouble to see this option. But in case it will be a different user or a user with a different role, you have to include this permission in order to use this option. So right now I have PM tables here, and let's take a look on the right side. We'll see we have the toolbar at the top, and here we have some basic options like new. This will allow us to create a new table. I'm gonna click on it just to show you what options we have here, and we have actually two. We have new PM table and new report table. In this case we're going to use the PM table. We also have some other buttons that we're going to use in a moment, and the only one enabled right now is the button that says import, because this is one that allows us to import PM table from a different environment to another one. So in the columns we have the name of the PM table. We have a quick and short description for the PM table. For the table type, which will be report table or PM table, we have how many records this table will have or is storing at that moment, and the process where the table belongs. This is only for report tables. We're going to take a look into that later. So let's start with PM tables. Okay. So I'm going to create a new PM table by clicking on New PM Table, and it's going to show me this screen. So let's take a look into this. We have two fields at the top, one for the name of the table. Take a look at this message here. This will add an auto prefix, which is PMT underscore. So you only have to add the table name. For instance, I can use training table. Take a look. This hasn't changed to uppercase. I'm going to add a short description here, like this is my PM table from the training course, like this. And below we have our editor for the columns or fields that will be included in this table. So this is a very intuitive and friendly interface. You just need to click on the Add Field button. This will add a new field to your table. You need to include the field name. This is almost like any other database management system interface. You just need to add a field name. In this case, I can add, for instance, ID, and the field label. It could be unique ID, like that. Let's choose the type for this field. Take a look. We have all the supported fields here. So I can use, let's say we can use an integer. You can enter the size. I would set, say, only 2. We can tell if this field will allow no content. In this case, it will allow it, or we can just disable this. If it's an ID, maybe I want to set this one as a primary key field. So let's click the primary key. It will not be null, of course. Maybe I can also set the auto increment feature or option, or just leave it to be filled manually. Just select this one. You can also make this field an index in your table. So let me just click on index. Okay, let's update this one. This one's for my ID. You can edit the field by clicking on the edit button. You can just double click on it. You'll be able to edit the field. Let's add a new field. Let's say I'm going to add name. Will be full name, like that. And this time I can set this field as varchar. Let's say our full name could be 50 characters. Cannot be null, and that will be it. Let's add one more, like address. Could be also a varchar. Let's put here like 100 characters. Not null and update. And as you can see, you can just start creating your PM table, adding the fields you need, as many as you need, and use all this data type for your table. Take a look into our documentation. You'll find a description for every kind of field or every kind of data you can store. Okay, take a look here. Indexes we're going to create will be created like this with this structure. But at the moment in Process Maker, unfortunately, we still don't have the option to create more complex indexes. That means you cannot combine fields to create a composed index here. So if you create an index will be just for one field. But If you have access to the database, and if you have your own server and you have access to MySQL, you can just add your custom indexes from the database straight from MySQL. That won't have any kind of effect here, so won't break anything in Process Maker. It will just add the index on the database itself. Okay, let's take a look here. We have to see the remove field option. Let's say you select one field, you're not going to use it anymore. You just select it and click on remove field, and this will ask if you want to remove the field. So you can just remove the field, and that will be it. Let's add the field again. Address, address. Okay. Okay. So once you are done with this table, you can just click on the bottom right button that says create, and this will create your PM table. Okay, so here's the PM table. We have with the name training. This is my PM table from training course. It's a PM table and it has no records yet. And it doesn't belong to any process because this is a PM table. And we're going to talk about the difference between PM tables and report tables later today. Okay, so again, this is the list. This is the PM tables list. We have all these columns to describe the PM table. Take a look at the options at the top. Now are enabled. So we have the edit button. If I click on it, I'll go straight to the designer mode. So I can just do some changes and click the update button. We'll go back clicking on cancel. Like this. We also have the option to delete the PM table. Will ask me if I'm sure if I want to delete this table. Say no, I want to create it again. Then I have this data button. If I click on it, this will give me the option to add data to my PM table. We'll take a look into this in a moment. We also have the import option and the export option. We also can double click on this PM table and it will take us straight to the design. Cancel this, let's go back here. Okay, and let's take a look into this part. Okay, so at the moment, if I open the editor again, note that there's any kind of warning message. As we can see in our documentation, we have a warning message when we try to open and edit the table. And in this case, this is not happening. This is not happening for us. Okay, this is not happening for us, and this is because we still don't have data in our PM table, so there's no warning or there's any message to warn us that something could happen to the data if we edit the table. As you know, if we do big changes to our table that requires the column or the field to be recreated, the data will be lost. But in this case, since we don't have data, we don't have this warning. But we can force the system to give us the warning. So let's go back here, back to the PM tables list, and let's add some data to our PM table. So I'm going to select my PM table, and I'll click into the data. I'll click the data button at the top. Okay, and take a look to this screen. We have some options at the top. We have add row, we have edit, delete. We have an option to import data from a CSV file. We have the option to export this information to a CSV file. We can also search data, and we can also search in the app UID field. So let's take a look into this. I'm going to click on add row, and this will enable an option to complete or add a new row in my table. As you can see, unique ID is disabled because we set this field as auto increment, so we don't have to send any kind of value for this field. So I'm just going to add some names here like John Doe or John Smith. Address could be Sesame Street. That is like that, right? Yeah. Okay, let's update this one. So I have one register. I can add another one. Could be James Smith. Say something like Square Garden. Let's update this. Okay, so we have our registers. We can add as many registers as we need. So as you can see, it's kind of simple and kind of easy just to add data to our PM tables. It's a very friendly interface. Let's add, for instance, another one. Could be again John Doe. Okay, and let's add my address, Key Street. Okay. Okay, so if I need to modify one of these, I can just click on the row and click on edit. With that, we can just double click on the row and you will be able to edit the data. You can also click on delete, it will delete the register. Okay, and that will be it. I'm going to stop here right now. I'm going to close this screen. Let's go back here. As you can see, now I have 3 records in my PM table. And let's take a look into the editor again. Let's say I'm going to click on edit. And as you can see, this time the system will warn me, telling me I have 3 records in this PM table. And if I edit the structure, this could make the data lost, right? So I have to be careful with this option. Let's go back to my PM tables list, like this, and I'm here again. So I'm going to select this again. I'll click on the data button here, and let's take a look to these other options, the CSV import and the CSV export. So I'm going to click on CSV import. Take a look. This is going to just ask me to select a CSV file from my computer, and I can also select the delimiter for the CSV. I only have options for semicolon and comma, so I can select which one my CSV file will use, and we'll import the data. So we're going to test this right now. Let's use the CSV export option. I'll click on it. Take a look. It's going to ask me to select the delimiter, and I'm going to use in this case semicolon. Okay, I click on the export button, and there it is. I have PMT training 2018 and the date .csv. So I'm going to click on this file. As you can see, it's a file using the give me a second, let me get it here. Let me get the file. Okay, so here it is. Open it with text editor, and here's the file. Here's the content. As you can see, this is a regular CSV file that includes the headers. This is mandatory for these options. If you want to import your PM table, you need to include the headers for the table. And let's do the following. Let's also change. Let's remove this one. I'm going to change this to 4, 5. Let's say need to add here name like Mel Gibson, for instance. Okay, and Tony Stark. Okay, let's save this. And then I'm going to come back here and I'll import the CSV using the CSV import option. I'm going to select this this file, PMT training. There it is. This is using semicolon. And let's upload the file. Okay. The CSV file imported successfully, and there you go. So we have the information added to our PM table. So you can just build or get your CSV file from any other system and then just import it into your PM tables and use this information to actually fill any field in your Dynafor. Okay, you can search information here by just typing value like that, or like that. Okay. In this case, we will not be able to use, or this will have any effect when we're trying to search information from the app UID. This is the cases unique identifier, because we don't have the app UID field here. But the behavior is different with report tables. Like I said a moment ago, we will take a look into this after the PM tables. So by the moment, search will work with these fields we have in our table. Okay, there it is. Everything again. At the bottom of this screen, as many other pages in Process Maker, we have the page counter. So in this case, I only have this data. We can set the page size to 20 rows, 100 rows. We can also refresh the data. And as you can see, we have a summary here, how many rows we have and how many rows we are seeing right now. Okay, let's close this window. This. And let me get back here. So let's take a look into this. Okay, so the other two options we still have here are the import and export buttons from the PM tables list. And let's take a look into what this will do. If I select my PM table and I click on the export button, this will show me this screen where I can select if I want to export all the data in my PM table or just the schema. Or I can just select only the data, only the schema, or the schema and the data. Data is not possible because this will need the structure of the table to be imported or exported. But for this, you can use the CSV export option, right? So if I export just the schema, this will export my PM table and will I can just take it to a different system, but keeping only the schema, not the data. If I use both options, all the schema and the data will be exported into a file, and I will be able to use it in another system. So let's do something. I'm going to select both options. I'll export this here, and as you can see, this is going to download. Let me refresh this folder. This is going to download a PMT file, which is the extension for PM tables in Process Maker, and it says the name of the workspace, right? So it's Ronald Richter, the date, and my PM table. Okay, so let's take a look into this. This will just store all the data from the PM table like this. So you can see it's a serialized information here with all the schema and the data. There's this file like this. So I can just use this file to create my table. So I'm going to save this one as a backup because this has all the schema and the data. Let's also click here. I'm going to click on export again. Now just select schema. This. Okay, I have another PMT file. Here it is. This is my PMT only the schema. Let's take a look at how this will behave. So I'm going to remove this PM table. I'll click on delete. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, it has been removed. And let's now import the PM table. I'm going to start by importing just the schema, which is this one. Upload. There it is. So I have my PM table. As you can see, I have all the information and it has no records. So if I click on data, I have anything here. What if I import the PM table that includes the schema and the data? Take a look into that. I'll get this other one. This has the schema and the data. I'll click on upload and take a look into this screen. So this is asking me to create a new copy of the PM table. This could override the existing table, or it could just avoid this PM table and ignore it. So I'm going to use this first option, create a new copy of the table. I'll click on continue, and as you can see, I have another PM table with the date and time. Of course, I can rename this one. Take a look into this. This one has all the records because it was the other file. So now I have two tables, right? I can import it one more time. Let's say use this one, load, let's create a new copy again. Okay, there it is. I have another copy of my PM table. Okay, so let's do one more time. Let's use this one. Click on upload. What if I say override the existing table? I'll say continue. And take a look. Now this one has been updated. I have 5 records. And all my PM tables now have all the 5 records, right? Because I imported the entire PMT file. So this is not only going to happen if I select one table. I can select several tables using the control key or shift key like this. And let's take a look. I'm going to export these 2 tables. I'll click on export. I can also select if I'm going to export only the schema or the schema and the data. Let's leave it like this for this example, and I'll export the file. I have exported the file. Take a look here. This is my new file. But this one, as you can see, is kind of bigger. And it is because it's including both tables. So if I take a look here, this will include definition for both tables and data from both tables in this case. So let's now try to import this file. I'll say import MT file. I'll use this one. This is the one that includes both the PM tables. Let's click on upload and take a look at this. The system will find if there's one or more tables included in the PMT file. So I can just take a decision on any or each table. If it's going to create a new copy, if it will override the existing one, or if it will just not import the table. I can just create a new copy, override, and click on continue. And that's it. A new table has been added. It's a copy of this one, as you can see. And the other one should have been updated. Of course, we won't see the difference because of the record number. And that's it. Okay, so this is the way you can just move your PM tables from one system to another one, and just import them, including the data or just the schema, and it's actually up to you. You can also use the CSV import option, which is very helpful because you can build your or get your CSV file from any other system and just import it here. Okay, so once again, these tables are currently stored in the local database for the Process Maker workspace. In this case, my workspace is Ronald Richter. So the PM table should have been created in this database, but with the prefix PMT underscore. So for this, there will be PMT underscore training, PMT underscore training underscore the date and time. And you need to remember this because later when we're going to be filling different fields in our Dynaforms, we need to make reference or call these tables with the right name that will be included in the PMT prefix. Okay, so let's close this one here, and let's continue with documentation. So we've done this already. here. Okay, so this part is very important for Process Maker because this is the reserved words for PM tables. So this is basically the same rules as for MySQL or any other database system. You just need to make sure you're not using any of these words in your PM tables, fields, and names because it could break something or get some inconsistencies in your system, or just not to work, right? Get this not to work, and it will give you some errors. So make sure you take a look into this list of reserved words and try to avoid using them. Okay. So this part for the accessing PM tables from triggers, we're going to leave it for later. We first need to learn about how triggers work. So we're going to just stop here for the PM table. This is the part that we're going to check later today, querying PM tables for Dynaphone fields. But by the moment, let's just come here and go back to it first. Okay, so next point are report tables. Let's open this, look to our documentation. Okay. So just as the PM tables work, report tables will be stored in the same database. Like I said again, with the workspace name, the WF underscore and the workspace name. And actually, these report tables can be created from two different places, not only from the list we already saw. They can be also created directly within a specific process. And this is because report tables are tables that will store data coming from a process, from cases that belongs to a process. So for instance, if you have a process that will register all the activity from different users, like I don't know, purchase requests, so you can create a report table that will get all the data from those cases. So you can see, for instance, all the purchase request information in each row in your report table. So we'll take a look into this. Let's see. Take a look here, and let's go to Process Maker. Okay, here I am. And remember, we had this option here to create a new PM table. We also have the option to create new report table. Interface is kind of different because we have to select a specific process here from the top drop down. As you can see, I have a list of all my processes. It includes all the processes from the past 2 days. Here they are. I can select, let's select one of these, for instance, Dynaform 1, and take a look on what happened here. I have a list of all the variables that were created for this process. I also have here the name for the report table. Take a look into this. It will also include the PMT underscore prefix. So I can add a name like report 1. Okay. Description, visits, report 1, report 1. Okay. And take a look at the fields. Here we have type, the type of report we are going to create, and we have actually two options here. One for global. That means that this report will work or will allow us to include only global variables. That means those are the variables that we created from the variables option inside the process. And we also have the option grid, and this will allow us to select a specific grid in our process. For instance, I have here the grids I have in my Dynaforms. I have my first Dynaform and these two grids, and my second Dynaform with these two grids. So I can click any of these, and this will show me the variables that I have in this grid for that specific Dynaform. So I can make a report or build a report for those fields in that grid. Then I have the database connection. I can use workflow, just workflow, so it's where the report will be stored. So by default would be just this would just use the default connection workflow. This means it's WF database. Okay. So I also have the option to search fields here. Let's change this to global so I can have a bigger list like this. And let's look for last name. There it is. I have last name, and I can just select this variable and add it into my report table. So it's now added. This is a very similar interface, the one we had for the PM tables. At the top, we also have the option to add fields like this. Just cancel. So we can add all the fields that we need to include in our report. So I'm going to create this one just like with the last name. I'll click on create. Remember this report table is for Dynaforms 1 process. In my case, so I'll create this. There it is. And I have my report here. Take a look here. The table type is now report table. It's not a PM table anymore. So I can just know and difference which tables are report tables and which ones are PM tables. Okay, so this is one way to create the report tables. And let's take a look into the other one. Take a look here. The documentation is showing us you can do it within the process or any process. So let's take a look into that option. So let me go here to the designer, and I will open Dynaforms 1. This is the process that we use to create the report table. So let's come here. So let's take a look. Yeah, this one right now only has Dynaforms we created yesterday. So I'm going to quickly add a couple of tasks here. Now I'll leave this like this. Okay, here is my process, and if you take a look into the main toolbox here on the right side, you have an option that says report tables. So I can just click on this report table. It will show me this interface, these options. As you can see, we can manage our report tables here. And I'll close this one. And report tables, I also have the green button here. And if I click on it, it will straight take me to the option to create a new report table. Okay, so I'm going to get back here to report table list. And take a look here. This is a list of all the report tables that could be created for this process. In this case, we see only one, and it's the one we just created from the other interface here under admin and settings, PM tables. But this time I'm going to create a PM table or a new report table straight from the process. So I can also select one of these report tables and see the options here to manage my report table. I can just click on edit. It will give me the option to edit this report table. I'll click on cancel. I can create a new report table. Let's say report 2. This is report 2. This time I'll pick grid. I'll say our first Dynaform, city grid. Let's say country, location, and substation. Okay, there it is. Let's create my report table, and there it is. We can also edit, delete, and take a look into the data here. And take a look here. In this case, since it's a report table, we actually don't have the option to add a new row or add data, right? We don't have that option. But in this case, we have this button here that says regenerate data report. This means that since it's a report table, they will get data from the cases that were created using this process, in this case Dynaforms 1. All that data will be included automatically into this report table. Whenever you are working on the table, on the process, and you submit a case, you continue working on the case, and you finish the case, all that data will be included in this report table immediately and automatically. So you don't need to come here and make any kind of query or include data manually here. You just come here and see the data. If for some reason you see that it looks like you must regenerate the data, or you have accidentally remove the data from the database using MySQL, you can just click on Regenerate Data Report, and it will get the data from all the cases belonging to this process, and will fill the table again. Okay. Then we have the import export options, which are actually the same, but in this case, if I click on export, you'll see that I only have the schema selected or checked, and I can't check data option because report tables doesn't allow to export data from the cases. And actually it's not necessary, because if you're going to use this report table in another system where you have the same process, you can just import the report table schema, and you don't need to import the data since it can be regenerated using these options. So it doesn't make sense to get all the data. So let's take a look. I have a question from Philip. 1 second. It says, let's see. Okay, how is a report table different than a regular PM table? Can you do with a report table that is different than a regular PM table? Okay, so PM tables are, we can say, are like custom tables inside your database, like additional custom tables where you can add your own data. For instance, let's say you want to include in your database a list of customers you have from another system, and you don't want to make a connection to that system. You just have your table, and you need to use that customers table in your processes. Field drop downs, field suggest fields. You can just create a PM table, import that data into your PM table, and use that data in your Dynaforms. But in case of report tables are used to report data from a specific process. You're not able to add data manually or custom data. You are just only able to build your report adding specific fields that are based on variables in one process. Like in this case, my report table is based on the variables I have in this process. You see last name, and I can add any other field that are actually the variables that I have in this process, and the data will be automatically filled from the cases with the data from the cases that were created for this process. I don't know if that answers Philip's question. Okay, yes, report tables actually comes by default in community version. You have the option to create report tables and PM tables. That means this is not an enterprise or licensed feature. It's just a native process maker built-in feature for community and enterprise versions. So there's no problem if you don't have a license. Okay, so let's continue. We were getting this here. I'm going to click on export again. And as you can see again, I can't select data because data will be automatically filled from the process. So if I click on export, this will export another file here, which is also PMT, the name and the date and time. Okay, so I can use this PMT file to just import my report table in a different system. Okay, so let's take a look now into the import option. Okay, import option. And this is almost the same as for the PM tables. I will select this one. There it is. And it would just ask me if I want to create a copy, if I want to override, or do not import the report table. Click on continue to create a copy. There's the copy. Okay, so in this case, this worked just fine because I have the process in my system. It's a report table for a specific process, the one I have here, which is Dynaforms 1. But what happens if I move this into a different server or workspace? For instance, one of yours, maybe yours are called different. Maybe you don't have Dynaforms 1, maybe you have any other name. So These report tables are related to a specific process. That means if you need to move a report table to another system, another workspace, or another process maker server, you must have the, the process that will have or that will include this report table. If you don't have the same process, you will get an error message saying that you don't have the process or the process related to this report table doesn't exist. So you must first import the process and then import the report table. So both come together if you create a report table. Let's get back here. Let's scroll down a bit. Okay, we'll take a look into the fields. And let's see. Okay, so something that you might have noted here is the fact that when I created this report table, I'll edit the table. Take a look to the columns on the right side. I only added last name, but after saving the report table, now I have three additional fields, which are app UID, app number, and app status. So these three fields or these three columns are being automatically included into the report table. Since it's a report table, this one needs or must have the app UID, which is the case unique identifier. App is the unique identifier. Sorry, it's the case UID, right? We have the case number, which is this app number, and we have the app status to see if the case will be in draft status or to-do status or completed or canceled or whatever the status is. So these three fields again are automatically included in my report tables with all the other fields that I manually included. Okay, I will just cancel here. And let's open another report. Well, all my report tables are almost the same. But let's take a look into this one, for instance. I'll click on edit and take a look into the variables list on the left side. You will also note that almost for all my variables, I have the variable name and the variable with this suffix underscore label. Same for birth date. I have birth date and birth date underscore label. And I have that for all other variables, almost for all. Like this one is object response. This one doesn't have a label because it's just an object. It's not being used in any field in my Dynaforms. So let's take a look on why this is happening. For instance, a good example will be, let's see, where's country? Here. Okay. So I have country and I have country label. So you remember when we were working on our Dynaform, we created a drop down for country where we were able to select the country from a list. And since it's a drop downs actually work with two kind of values, one for the key and one for the label that is displayed. So the key will be the value and it will be stored in this country variable. And the system will automatically create a new variable with the same name but with underscore label to say or to store just the label. So for instance, if you have United States selected, this one will store US, which is the key of the code, and this one will store the label United States. So we have these two variables, and that will happen for all the other fields. It will be the same for first name label. In this case, the value will be the same, but the system will still create this new variable with this suffix underscore label. So you can just pick which one you need to include in your report. Let's say I want to include country and country. See the difference? There it is. I will update this report table. That's it. It will be the same for the grades. Remember this one was a grade, I think. See, edit. Yeah, this one's a grade. Then take a look. We can also add, we have grid country, grid location. Take a look here into the information we have. It also includes the app UID, the app number, the app status, and in this case, since it's a grid, it will also include the row of this data in the grid. And again, we have these fields here: label, label, and label. So let's date this one here. Okay, so now let's take a look on how this will work. Oh, give me 1 second. Let me get my really quick my charger. Okay, I'm sorry for that. I'm back again. So let's take a look on how this will work. So right now my process doesn't have any Dynaform assigned. I have the Dynaform created here. But let's assign it to the tasks and let's add a user and we're going to run a quick case. So let's right click on task 1. I'll select steps. And I'm going to drag my first Dynaform here. There it is. Okay, let's close this. Let's do the same here. Steps. I'm going to use the same Dynaform, my first Dynaform. Okay, and let's assign a user. Right click, assignment rules. I'll select the admin. And here I will select the admin. Like that. Okay, so let's start by creating a new case. I'll go to Home tab, New Case, and here it is, Dynaforms 1. That's my process. And I'm going to just double click on it to create a new case. Okay, so there's my Dynaform, the one we created yesterday. So I'm going to fill in a first name, like Ronald, and my last name. I'll select the country, anyone, let's say France. Take subdivision, anyone, this, and okay, there's the location, and I believe I'll have, okay, here's the require field, let's say my birthday. Okay, well, I'll leave it like, let's see, oh no, any date. Okay, and I think that's it. Let's fill our grids. We have one grid here. I'll pick any country. Let's see, another one. Okay, this one. I can add another one, like let's see, one with all the values, like this one. Okay, and that should be enough. This is the grid we create for which we created the report table, and that should be it. Let's see. Okay, this is all my form. I'll click on the submit button at the bottom of my form. I'll continue, and there it is. I have my case created. So let's take a look into the report tables again. I'll go back to admin, go here to PM tables, like this. Take a look into the information. I have my report tables. Those belong to process Dynaforms 1. And as you can see, I have one record, and two records for the grid. If I go back to the designer and I open Dynaforms 1, and I take a look into report tables, you see I have the same information, only my three report tables and the number of records they have. And let's take a look here. I'll open one of these, I'll say data, and I have this information. I have the app UID, the app number, the app status, which is in to do right now because it was sent to the admin's inbox. I have the last name from this variable. Should have the same here. There it is. Oh, this report table was different. Okay. I also added the country. Take a look into country, FR. Take a look into country label, which is the label. So I have the code and the label, or the key and the label. I can click on regenerate data report. Okay, that's it. And let's take a look into the grid. Here it is. So I have the case UID, the case number, case status, the row of this data in the grid, row 1 and row 2. I have all these keys because I didn't add the labels. I just added the variables for the key. So once again, you don't need to add this data manually. You just need to build your report table, and it's the system who's going to build all the data coming from the cases. This process. Okay, let's close this. Let's go back here. Okay, so this one is the message. Take a look here. When we import the report table, it says import related to current process. If we're going to import the report table in a different system, it would just ask us to avoid this report table and just do not import. Okay, so as well as for the PM tables, if we are going to use triggers, we're going to take a look into that later, so we can build or use fields to build or get the information from report tables. We have to use a custom trigger later. So this part is very important, where we can take a look into how to include other system variables in our report tables. So as you can see, at the moment we are creating report tables, we actually cannot see system variables such as the user log or any other system variable like the workspace name or the process name or process UID. We only have the global variables created manually in the variables list. So if we need to include any other variable from the system like user log, username, or the index from the case, or the task name, process name, we will have to also use a trigger, and we will also take a look into this later, and we will have to store this information in another global variable. So it's actually the same concept. So the only thing we need to do is get the system variable, store it in a global variable, and then these variables will be listed in the report table, possible fields to be added. So we can just include these fields, and the report table will include that information from the system. Okay, about querying report tables and querying PM tables. Again, these report tables are stored in the process maker. um, default database, which is WF underscore in the name of the workspace. So you can just add a query in your Dynaform fields to just get the information from these tables. Just as we did yesterday for the country, the location, and population, you can use this report table to get that information and fill any field. Go back here and here we can get this part. I think I didn't talk about this at the beginning. So it's the unsupported fields for the report tables, and this is very important. So we have these two fields or controls that are not supported because of the structure they have. For instance, we have the check group and the file control. So since these controls are very different, cannot be stored in the report table. For instance, the check group is an array, so there would not be an option to actually select the value from that array or the selected value from the array and store it in the report table. And for the file field, the file would not store the selected value or the selected file in the variable. So it would just get a path, it would upload a file, and that would be it. So there's not a way to get that path and store it into the report table. So there's a workaround, at least for the check group, we have a workaround here. So the idea is to get, let's say, for instance, you have a group box to select a country like this in this example. So you can do the following. You can just use a trigger, and in the trigger you could encode you could encode, get back here, the array into a JSON string, and that JSON string can be stored in a global variable. And then you can just save that global variable or include that global variable into your report table. So it's just a workaround. And later, if you need to use again for some reason that JSON string, you can just load the JSON string and decode it again with PHP. With this, you will be saving this, and later you can just decode this string from the database and load it into another field in any Dynaform. So this is because of the structure again. You don't have a way to save the array, but you can change it and make it a string. Okay. So let's close this one and this one. And let's go to the next point, which is database connections. Okay, so for this part of the course, currently we will not be able to test the database connection in our workspaces, but we will do it later in the labs, not today, in the next labs of the course. We will be working with triggers. So we're going to just take a quick look into how this would work. I'll show you here with some credentials that I have for my workspace or for the training server. And like I said, you're going to do it later in other labs using some other credentials that we're going to send you, so you can use it for this feature. So right now I'm just going to show you how this works. So I'm going to close this, and now go back to I'll go back to the designer. Okay, so database connections in Process Maker are actually a way to connect our processes to an external database or external data source, and not only an external database source, it could also be an internal specific database in the same MySQL server that Process Maker is using. So if you have a specific database, or you don't want to include your tables inside the Process Maker table, you can just create an internal database connection and use your own data from your specific database. So if it's an external database, for instance, you can use Postgres or Oracle or Microsoft SQL. you can create your own connection and also connect to that database and get information from there. So the idea is to create a connection from your process to that additional data source. So how this will work? Let's go here to any of our processes. I'm going to use, let's use this Dynaforms. Okay, and in your main toolbox here, you have an option just below report tables that says database connections. If you click on it, it will open the list to manage your database connections, or you can also use this green button to create your database connection. Okay, create here, and this will allow you to create a new database connection. So at the first field, you can select the engine that you will be connecting to. In this case, I have MySQL. As you can see in this server, I have also some other connectors configured or clients configured like Postgres and Microsoft SQL. But this doesn't come enabled or installed by default. At the very beginning, if you install Process Maker, you will only have MySQL connection. You won't have Postgres or MS SQL Server. So you need to include your extensions into the system or into your PHP installation and make all the changes you need. We have all the details for that kind of connections in our documentation. As you can see, we have documentation for Postgres, for Microsoft SQL, for Oracle, and you can also connect using ODBC to any other database system. So let's take a look. Let's go back here. At the moment I have this tree. I'm going to use MySQL to connect, and I'm going to connect to the local Process Maker database. I'm just going to use the same database, and so I just want to show you how this will create the connection. We have the encoding. You can use the encoding you need. I'll leave it with Unicode. I'll use the server. It could be, I'll use localhost because it's the same server. I'll use database name. Let's say I'm going to use my database, which is Ronald Richter, and username will be root, and I have my admin password here. Let me get it. Okay, there's my password, and I just need to test the connection, and as you can see, I have established the connection to my own local database. This is just for the test, but I'm now ready to save this. I'll save this option here. As you can see, I have now my connection created. The type is MySQL server. This is the server. I have my database name. I'm using localhost because I'm just connecting to the same database in the same server, so it's localhost. It could be a different IP address or a domain name for the server. And a description. I didn't add a description. And on the left side, I have this button which is Show ID. So I can just show the ID for this connection, and this will be useful later in the course because when we are working in triggers and we need to query external databases or any other database, we will need to use this connection UID. So this UID will help Process Maker to make the connection to that specific database, and then you will be able to use it and fill your queries on it, or fill different fields, or use it on the way you need. So we will take a look at this data. Okay, so I have my connection here. I can create more connections if needed or cancel. I can just edit my connection, cancel it, and I can manage my connections or my additional connections to databases from this screen. So that will be it for the database connections at the moment. Like I said, we will take a look into this later in the course. Let's close this window. Let's get back here. So database connections are not available for all the processes. It's not a global connection for Process Maker. It will be just for this Dynaform1 process. So if you need to use the same connection in another process, you will have to go to that specific process, for instance, this process 2, and create your connections again. So you just need to recreate your connections. Let's see, workflow, root, and the password, and there's a connection. So I have access to everything right now because I'm using the root user. So if you will have permissions for this database using the specific username, this test will fail. So let's say this is wrong. As you can see, I can't connect to that database, and will be the same for all these other fields. There you go. Okay. Again, this will give me a UID that you can use in your triggers. Like that. And let's close this. Let's get back here. There's not much more to see with the database connections right now, but again, we'll take a look and we will use these connections later. Okay, close this one. Let's go here to SQL property and populate in Dynaform controls. So we have already worked with this yesterday. We were using the dependent fields and filling the drop downs with the SQL property. So basically, if you go to a Dynaform, I'll use the Dynaform1 process because I have a lot of fields there. Or maybe I can create a new one. That would be better. Let's come here. Say SQL property. I'll create a Dynaform. For one, this is for SQL property example. Okay, I believe we have a question. Let's take a look. Okay, let's see. It says, can I move a process maker's database to a separate server? Like process maker app and MySQL is on one server and I want to move its MySQL database to a separate server. Can this be done by or without losing data? So yes, actually, process maker can be installed on one server. That will be the app server, and MySQL can be installed in a different server. So at the moment process maker is being installed, you can just make the connection using the IP address or the in this case, like you are asking the Amazon server name to make the connection. So it's not mandatory to have Apache and MySQL services in one single server. Let me get here to the admin tab. If we go to the admin tab under settings and system information, here you see we have all the information where process maker is installed. We have the server IP, we have database, and we have the database server. As you can see in this case, it's installed in localhost in the same server, but this will be a different IP address or a server name if it's installed in a different server. There's another question. If it's only during install that is set this up? No, you can initially install it in localhost. If then you need to move it, yes, there's a couple of steps you need to follow, but it's not really difficult. It can be moved to a different server. You just need to move the database. You won't lose any data, and then you need to to adjust some files to get the new connection or make the connection to the new database server using the IP address or the domain name. Okay, so let's continue. Let's add a couple fields. Let's go back here. Okay, so we're going to take a look into some rules to write our queries in the SQL field. So for instance, we're going to check into this list. Okay, so let's take a look into this. The first one, which is very important, that is telling us that we should avoid writing queries that's going to get a lot of large amount of data, because this could make the Dynaforms start behaving or start having performance issues, like taking too much time to load the form. And actually, if you're working with dropdowns, it doesn't make much sense to load 1,000 options in a dropdown, because the users will have to look into thousands of these options to select the right value. For these cases, it will be better to use a suggest field that will only show the options or suggest the options when the user starts typing any value in the field. Let's see the next one. Like when you're working in Windows, the tables and databases are case insensitive, so you don't have to use uppercase specifically. But if you're working on Linux, you must use the exact name for the database. So if you're working in Linux, you must type the table names and columns using uppercase. There's an option in MySQL that you can set in order to make Linux work with or change Linux to work with or to be case insensitive. So you can add just this row here. That will make Linux recognize the table names either with uppercase or lowercase. Okay. When you're working in the SQL field, you don't need to include the database name before any table name, since the connection is being established already to a specific database. You don't need to add this in the query. You don't need to end the queries with a semicolon. Process Maker will just parse this query and will make it work, and it will on the background it will just add all the additional characters that the query needs. So you don't need to add this as in any SQL editor. If for some reason in some strings you need to include single quotes, make sure to use an escape character. In this case, you will have to use the backslash, so you can escape this character and include it in the string. Make sure to use the right quotes depending on the database that you are going to query. So if you're going to query MySQL, it's okay to use single quotes or double quotes. But if you're using Postgres or SQL Server or Oracle, double quotes are not supported, so you must use single quotes in that case. Okay, so if you're going to use a variable and you just want to use the value, and if this value is not a string, you don't need to add the single quotes, and you need to call the variable as you can see here with @equal and the variable number. Or it could be hashtag, as we did yesterday for the countries, and just add the value. You can use the following formats for date and time and timestamp. And this is the one we were talking about a few moments ago, that if you're going to query a PM table or a report table, don't forget to include the PMT underscore prefix, that it's automatically included or added in the PM report or report table name. Let's take a look at the following. If you're going to work with this kind of controls like a drop down, a check group, a radio button, or a suggest field, you must write a query that will return two values, because this kind of controls or fields will use one value for the key or the original value, and the second field for the label, the selected label in the control. So you must use a query that will get two columns. So for instance, if you write a query using a select a star from any table, only the first two columns will be used, and the other ones will be just ignored and would not be included in your field. You can also concatenate information from your query. As long as you get only two fields, this would not be a problem. So you can get the first one for the ID, and the second one could be a concatenated information. So for instance, we can do something like this. Let's add a drop down. This could be users, like this. Let's change the label to users. And let's go to the SQL property. Now say let user UID and concat. And let's say user first name and user last name from users. I'll save this. There you go. So I can just concatenate all the information I need. So as long as I only have two, or I have the two fields, this will work for the drop downs. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look into how to get information using variables. In this case, we can use some system variables or global variables. So let's take a look. Save this. I'm going to add a text box. I'll put something like actual user or current user. Oh, this was the drop down. Oh, sorry. Let's change it again. Let's go back to users, and this one is current user. Okay, and I'm going to add the query, the SQL property. And let's say let's say concat first name last name from users where user UID equals to user log, like that. So this is a system variable, user log. This will return the user UID that is logged in right now. In this case will be the admin. And it will use the query to get the first name and last name from this user. That's it. Okay, as you can see, there it is. Oh, I think I break something in the dropdown. Okay, but this is the text box and it's getting the username and the last name from the current user. See what happens here. Oh, my query is gone. Okay. Like that. Okay, so I have the drop down, select any user, and I have my text field that was filled with the query. Let's continue here. And data source. Okay, we're going to take a look into data source, which is the array variable later when we get into the triggers. So we're going to get back here as we're working with PHP coding triggers. So let's start this right here. Save this. And let me get rid of this. Okay, let's continue with the dependent fields. We already saw an example yesterday with the dependent fields, but that was only with drop downs. We are now going to work with other fields. And let's take a look into these examples. Okay, so dependent fields in Process Maker actually will define two kind of fields. One will be the independent field, and the second one will be the dependent field. So the independent field will be the one that will be using a query or setting a value, and it would not depend on any other value or condition in the same Dynaphone. But the dependent field will be the one that will depend on a previous value selected in a different field. So there are supporting controls for dependent fields. Here's a list. Dependent fields are supported with dropdowns, suggest fields, text box fields, text area fields, check groups, and radio buttons. Okay, let's take a look into the dependent fields really quick again. We have here the same example we were using yesterday. So we're going to create it again really quick. So I'll get here. I'm going to have let me create a new Dynaphone. Let's say form 2. Dependent fields. This one, let's use the same name we have here. This will be countries and subdivision. Countries. And this will be for location. Okay, this is country. Let's use the query. Let's take a look here. Okay, there it is. Now copy this one. Take a look. This one. Okay, there it is. And finally this one. So let's take a look here, and there it is. Okay, so we have already done this sample. This is the dependent fields using dropdowns. As you can see, this one here, the countries dropdown, is the independent field, and these two are the dependent fields. So Process Maker will automatically recognize if you are using a variable that is included in your Dynaform, like in this case countries, and it will make the field dependent from this other variable. Okay, so take a look to the queries we are using. In all these cases, we are using two columns or queries that we will get two fields. First one for the UID, the other one for the name. Will be the same for all these queries. And the condition will happen, the where statement will happen against the ID. So the value that will be selected in these dropdowns will be the ID of these dropdowns, like that. Let's get back here. Let's take a look into this example. This will be the same, but this time we will use suggest boxes, so we can this time include this. Let me see the field names. Okay, it will be the same. Let's add suggest. Suggest this could be output something like S countries to suggest. This will be country. Let's use a query. Will be this one. Let's add a different or a new one. This will be S subdivision. Subdivision. Let's change the name here. Is S countries. And let's add the third one. Just location. Oh, sorry, it will be S location. Like that. Get the query. And let's try. So I'm going to type, will be better here. Okay, there it is. And now here I can choose something like this, and now it's a location. Like that. So dependency is working. This time with the suggest field, and up here we have the drop down. And this is what I was talking about a moment ago. where if you have a big number of options that are going to be included in your dropdown, it could be difficult for the users to select the correct or the right option, or to look into the option, like here, to look a lot, then get this, you need to scroll and see here, see, well, this is really not friendly, right? Okay. So in this case, it will be faster and better to use suggest fields. Okay, let's continue. Let's take a look into this other example. We're going to use text boxes to do the dependency. So we're going to use these three fields. We'll do this sample here. We're going to use three different text boxes, and we're going to type the code of one employee or one user here, and we're going to load all the other fields. So we can do something like this. Let me add some subtitles here, just to separate the fields. This one will be drop downs. Suggest fields. Oh, sorry, this one. This one should be a subtitle. Text box. Okay. So let's add a text box. This will be username. Like that. Username. Let's add another one. User UID. This will be user full name. Full name, like that. And we're going to add the queries. The first one, username, will be the independent field, and this user UID and full name will be the dependent fields. So let's add a query here, and let's say select user UID, again, from users where username be equals to, I think it was username, like that. Let's see, username, yes, here. Okay, so username. So what am I getting these two columns? Remember that when we were creating the report tables, we saw that all the variables have the underscore variable. So this is in order to fill both. This will fill user UID. This will fill user UID underscore label. This, and let's copy this query to full name, and we'll change it up a bit. Let's say contact first name, last name from users, and let's see. Okay. And right now it's getting, oh, let's see why is it getting this. Let's type a different value here. Okay, here it is. It's getting the admin. And in this case, well, I believe it's my query because it's getting any information. So let's take a look here. As you can see, if I type the username, it will change to any user. I don't know if I have, let's take a look into usernames. Here we have Mike, Jacob, Adam, there is Mike, there it is, and Jacob, there it is. So dependency still happens between these text box controls. Here. Okay, we can also do the same within the grid as we did for the countries. Let's make this work in a grid with the same sample we just did. So I'm going to add this subtitle. Grid. Let's add the grid. Okay, this name won't have any effect, so it could be any name. Now let's drag and drop the controls. So we'll do this. Let's do something different here. I'll add this one. I'll add a drop down and let's add the suggest. Let's see how this goes. So first one will be country, will be G country, G for the grid. This one will be G subdivision. This one will be G location. Okay. So let's get the query for this one. We can use the one here, the one we have here. Let's copy. G country. And for this one, let's use this other query. G country, G subdivision. Okay, let's go to the grid and let's type here something like US. There it is. Dependency just happened. Let's say this. Now we have our suggest here. So now we have dependency in the grid with 3 different kind of controls. It's closed. Let's close this one as well. Okay, so at this point we are ready to start with the first lab, which is the lab for PM tables and Dynaforms. So let's, well, you can take around 15 minutes to complete the lab, and I'll get back to you once you're done. Okay, so let's please start with this one. And if you have any question, please just let me know. I have a question from Philip. It says, if you want to save who did each task in a process, what is the best way to do this in a Dynaform? So, okay, if, I'm not sure if I'm getting the question. So you want to show in a Dynaform who did the tasks, or do you want to use a Dynaform to grab the user who did the task and store it somewhere? So Process Maker actually offers the option to, well, actually, it stores this information automatically. We have the case history section. We'll take a look into that later in the course, and this will show us which user worked in each task of the process. It also stores the date when the task was derived and when the case was created and when the case was completed. So it would store the name of the task, the name of the user, the dates and the times, and it will also give you the option to see a change log for the variables, so you can see which variables were changed and the values that were set for those Dynaforms. If you need a custom report, you can use a report table, so you can just grab the variable you can use in your Dynaforms field, like we just did. I think it was the other Dynaform, right? Let me open the other one. Yeah, this one. So this one was getting the user UID of the user logged into the system and working and currently working in this Dynaform. So if you get this variable, if you submit this form, this variable will store that UID, and then you can include this variable in a report table, so you will get the user who worked in this case. Okay, so let's now continue with the course. Let's get back here. Let's get rid of this lab. Okay, let's take a look into the next one here, which is advanced dashboards. Okay, so in Process Maker we have this tab in the main menu at the top. It says Dashboards. If we click on it, we'll see we have some information and some dashboards that are included by default here. Like we have this one here that says Open Cases versus Completed Cases. And we can also add our own dashboards here. So I'm going to click here on Admin. I'll come here to Settings, and we have this Dashboards option on the left side menu. So I'll click on Dashboards, and I have some dashboards here, which are the default ones from the Process Maker. And we can create our own. Take a look here, we have the title for the dashboard, we have the dashlet that is going to be used for your dashboard, the version, the users that are able to work with this or that are able to see these dashboards, the update date, and the status of the dashboard. At the top we have this menu to create a new dashboard or a dashlet. We have the option to edit an existing dashlet. We can delete the dashlet and change the status. So I'm going to click here on New. Let's see what happened here. Just click on New again. Oh yeah, that's because I installed my plugin and then I removed. Let's come here to plugins. I'll take a look into the list of plugins and look for the one that says Advanced Dashboards here on the right side. I'm going to enable this plugin. Here it is. I have the Advanced Dashboard. Now get back here to Settings. Now click again on Dashboards, and I'll click on New. Okay, there it is. Okay, so we have this form where we can create our dashlet. I'll type the title. Let's get back here to our documentation to take a look into which or what options we have. Here, dashboards, and here. We have a list of examples here. Let's get those examples. Here, okay. So I'm going to add a name. That's something like dashlet 1. Then I have the dashlet type. And let's take a look into this list. We have several options to build your own dashlets. We have the cases drill down. We have cases drill down by category. We have a custom drill down. We have a dashlet SLA. We have the open cases versus completed cases, which is the one that comes by default already in dashboards. We have the option to create a dashlet based on the PM table data. We have the other dashlets that come by default in dashboards: the Process Maker community, the enterprise and plugins add-ons, and the simple feeds reader. We also have some information to customize the dashlet, like the chart type could be a bar, could be a pie, or a funnel. We have the labels for the x-axis, for the y-axis. We also have the option to group our dashlet. In this case, we have some fixed options here. And this will change actually when we change the dashlet type on the top. We can also set if the cases will be put on risk after, or if there's one day before the due date. And we also have the settings to make the dashlet more or a little bit more customized. You can also get the cases from a specific user or from all the users. Could be not users, could be groups or departments, or just everyone. Could be in a specific group. The departments we have. So you have the list of departments and the date. Let's take a look into the let's get here the case drill down by category. Okay, let's take a look here. Some options changed. We still have the labels for the axis X and Y. Also have the group by option. And take a look here, we have the option to show the cases by processes, user groups, and overdue versus on schedule. We can also select if it will be the current user or users and the date. We also have the custom drill down. And in this case, custom drill down will show information or graphs based on custom queries that we need to add here. The difference with the other drill down options is that these ones have the queries already built in, and in this case, the custom drill down will ask us to include our own queries and group the information by different categories, or just add a custom trigger that it will get, like UIDs, it will group by a specific UID or by a specific field, and it will build our chart based on that information. We can add several levels of queries in this query area, and actually we will take a look into this dashlet since it's really helpful. We can also set if the count or the list that it will be generated at the end will be based on the last query. We can use specific connection for these queries. Since our custom queries, this will ask to select a specific connection. That means the dashlet could be based not only on process makers information, it could be based on any external database connection and get information from another source. You can also have additional information to load into a dashlet, adding a label and another specific query. Here we also have the open cases versus completed cases. Here we can use a period of time and also set the values for the dashlet. Let's get back here. We also have the PM table. This means it will show a dashlet based on a PM table data. You can see we have here the PM tables created in our system. This will include all the PMT prefix tables. That means we have report tables and PM tables. Let's get one of these. Remember this one. Okay. You have the fields that you can include, and then just save the dashlet. Take a look into this one. I remember this one had some information. I'll save it. Oh, I forgot to change one thing here. I'll select my dashlet 1. I'll click on edit. take a look here at the top. We have the title, the dashlet type. We have the assigned to, and we can select if this dashlet will be available for a user, a department, a group, or all. We can select all for everybody. I'll select the user. In this case, I could select my admin user in this case, so I can see the dashlet. Set it to all. I'll click on save. Now I'll go here to dashboard and take a look. This is report 2, and this is the data from my report table. So this is my dashboard created based on that dashlet. Let's go back to admin. Let's go back to dashboards. Okay. Let's edit this one. Or maybe we can do the following. I'm going to create. Now let me edit this one. This will be PM table dashlet. Like that. Let's create a new one. It could be cases drill down. And it will be cases drill down. We don't have too many cases, so let's see how this will behave. Let's say all. That could be a high table cases drill down. Group cases by on time, at risk, overdue. We have cases from yesterday. I believe we have some drafts, maybe. Let's use this one. Let's see. Okay, and type user. No, everybody. Okay, date all. So it includes everything, and process task user status. Okay, this one will work. Let's save it, and let's go back to dashboards. And there we go. We have process 4, 24 cases. Have task assignment sample, 15 cases. Dynaforce 1, 2 cases. So since this is a drill down cases dashlet, we can just click on one of them, and the dashboard would drill down into the data. So take a look here. We can now see the tasks, that setting we were using. We have two options here below the dashboard. One will open this in a new window, and this one will do a zoom in like this. So you can just click on this one, zoom in. Or this one will open a new tab and show a dashboard. So I can drill down into process 4, see the 24 cases. We have all the tasks. Remember, we did a lot of examples the first day with the assignment rules and gateways, so that's why we have here 24 cases. Let's take a look here to inclusive. There it is. This is administrator. If I click on this, I'll see administrator has someone draft, someone participated. And if I click to one of them, in this case participated, we'll see the last level, which will be the list of cases. There you go. Then we'll go back here. And if I click in one of these, I would just be redirected to the case in Process Maker. Take a look here, like to do. There it is. I'm in to do. Let's go back here on the top right corner. We have the option to return to the chart. I'll go back. Here I am. I can go here to case drill down. So I can go to the first level and just drill down anywhere I need to. Administrator, here I am. Like this. Inbox, let's see. I'll open this case in the inbox. And there it is. I can actually work in the case. It's in my inbox, so I can work in this case and continue my case. Okay, so take a look at the information we have here. It's really helpful. We have the case number, the case status, the case title, which by default is the same as the case number. This can be customized. We'll check that also later in the course. The name of the process, the task name, the user who sent the case. In this case was sent by the same admin user. The current user is also the admin user, and the due date for the case. Okay, so you can just go back here to any other level. Let's close this. We can do the same from here. Just drill down into any data you need. Add this, draft, admin, current user. Let's see if we open one of these. There it goes. Oh, something happened. Maybe the trigger or something was missing in this case. Let's close it. Then we have all these options, right? Go back. The zoom will work the same way, but this time inside the same process maker page. So you can just press that. And let's go back to roll out the information. Okay. Let's take the next one. We were here. Let's go back to admin. Dashboards. Let's create a new one. This will be custom drill down. Like this. And in this case, oh, let's change this to all. Okay. Chart type could be bar. Let's use bar. And we have a sample here, an example here in the wiki. Let's use it. It will be really helpful. Just scroll down. See the sample. Okay, this one. Let's use this one. We have an example with a custom table to build a custom drill down. So for the sample, we need to create a PM table. We also need to get the information from country, subdivision. So let's see what we can do. We're going to create a PM table with all these fields. So let's do that first. Let's get here to settings, PM tables. Let's create a new PM table. Take a look at the name. Okay, let's see. We can see the queries here. Table name will be PMT request. So let's type request. This is for the dashlet sample. Okay, let's add a field. Will be this one here. Request ID. I'm going to set the same here. Let's see what we have. Okay, let's use these ones here. Will be UID. This could be an int, or yeah, it could be an integer. Let's type 2. Primary key and auto increment will be the ID. Let's update this. Add a new one. And let's do the same for all these fields. Full name. This will be full name. Could be a bar chart. 30. Not null. Same for the email. Bar chart. It's the same. 30. Not null. Another field. Rest type. It's the same. Now for request comment. request comment. Let's say 150. Request date. For this example, I'll just use varchar, like 20, not no. The country UID, varchar, this could be just 5, not no, and the subdivision UID. I will also use varchar and 5, not no, and that's it. So there's my table. I'll create the PM table. There it is. We have request here. Let's go to data. And let's fill one register like this one. I'm going to use the same data, John's name for the user full name, or for the full name field. Let's use his email. Let's type comment. Date. We use CA and AB. AB. Okay, I'll update this one. Okay, I have my register here for this example. And then we're going to use the queries to get information from the additional tables and this PM table as well. And this is the first query we're going to add in the custom drill down. Take a look on the fields that will be returned by this query. We'll first get the country ID, the country name. Then it will count how many records it's returning, and then it will get the UID. So this will do a join between the tables. And at the end, it will just group using the UID. But take a look, in this case, the group by is not happening against the UID from the ISO country table, it's happening against the PM table that we created. So we have joined the country table with the request table, and we'll group using those UIDs. Let's copy this one, and I'll close this. I'll go back to dashboards. I'll create this. I don't have the custom drill down. Now let's create it. The custom drill down. I'll put the first query. Okay, so what is important here? Take a look into the first field. It's the name that will be shown in the first level of the chart. This will show the quantity or the amount of records that we have for that category or for that chart. And then we have the UID that will be used as a variable for the next query. So once we add a new query, that new query will run for each record returned by this UID here in the first query. So let's take a look on the structure for the second query. We have the second query. Take a look here. It's also getting a name. It's also counting, so it's a different level for the chart. And then it's getting a new UID for the subdivision. Then just doing a join with the subdivision table. And here we have a condition where it's going to use this variable with double add ICUID, and this one is the one coming from here. This one is the one here. So the first two fields are for the chart, for the label and the quantity in the chart, and then the variable for the next query. So the next query can use that variable. And we're doing the same here. We're getting the name, counting for the quantity, and then it's getting a new variable, ISUID. And this one will be used in the third query if it's needed, of course. In this case, we have the third query. Here's the ISUID, and this will do the same. It is also getting type, it's counting the quantity to get the quantity, and it's getting the variable for the next query, ISUID, that will be used in the next one. This is the last one, so this one doesn't require to have three fields if it's not necessary. But in this case, we'll get the first name, the email, and the date. We don't have any other levels, so that will be the end. So let's get this one. Let's copy it. The space. There it is. Next query. Then I'll get the next one. There. And I'll get the last one. Okay, so take a look here. We have 4 queries. The first one will get the ICUID variable for the second one, so it can be used here. And this one is getting the IS as the variable for the next one, so it will be used here. And this one is also getting you ISUID for the next query, and it will be used here. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look here. This is how it will look. This is the first query. This will be the second one based on these variables here. This will be the third one based on the variables coming from here. And this is the last one, full name, request email, and date. Take a look. This ones, let's take a look. Labels, yes, this could be country, and this number of requests. Okay. Let's say all users. Let's save this. Take a look here. Okay, take a look. We have only one register. I'm going to open this in a new tab. Okay. We only have one register for Canada. This is the first query, and it's joining the ISO country table with the PMT requests. So then if we click on it, it will open this subdivision, which was AB for Alberta. Only has only one register. If we open it, there it is. We are using the description we had, the type. If we open it, we'll get the user who did that request. So let's analyze this a little bit more. Let's see the first query. So the first query is getting the country name. It will count how many requests are for this country, and it will get the ICUID for the next level of the dashboard. So we get only one because there's a join happening here to join the country table with the PMT request table. So since we only have one row there, we'll just get one country. Now once we are here, if we click on this one, this will open the second level. That means it will fire the second query, which is subdivision, which is in this case Alberta. Only one register, so it's getting the subdivision name. It's also counting, getting the variable for the next query. In this case, it's also doing a join with the PMT request table. So we just get one register because we have only one row in that PM table. And it will get the right values for the ICUID that is coming from the first query. If we click here, we'll see the type, the request type. And if we take a look into the third query, we'll see that this request type, counting how many request types we have for that type. It's also getting the ISUID for the next level. And this is getting the request type for this subdivision coming from the second query. And the last level, we have the full name, the email, and the date, just coming from the pin table request based on the subdivision UID we just got from the previous level. So we click here and we get the list. I'll set this, let's say custom drill down 1. Okay, I'll save it. Okay, so you can build your own custom drill down dashlets and also add the option to open cases. So let's take a look into another example. Let's use custom drill down. This will be custom drill down 2. Say all. Okay, and I have a very simple example here. If we take a look into the documentation, we have example below here. We can also use another one. I have built one. Let me copy a couple of queries. You remember I shared with you a notepad for the course, so let's use this one. I'll add some queries so you can get into this document we share with you. There's the URL, the short URL. So log in and you can get these queries. For the first one, we'll get a list of groups from my system, and the second one will get the users and the cases that belong to these groups. And in this case, I'm using the first value as a URL, so my users are able to click on this case number and they will be redirected to the case. So the only thing I changed here is the workspace name. I set my workspace, so I can set a different workspace name there. You can set yours. So let's take a look. I'll close this one. Let me get here. Like this. This will be groups and this will be cases. That should be it. Let's try it. Go to dashboards. Okay, as you can see, I have my groups here coming from my system or from my workspace. If I click on one of these, like let's say finance, let's see, oh, there are no records. Let's see here, okay, employees, there are the cases, and take a look at the first column. I have my cases here built with the concat statement in my query, this one, and it's making a link, or it's building a link to a case. So if you take a look here, this is an HTML tag. That means my dashboard will allow or will accept this HTML tag here. So I can just open this one. Now I'll get to the case. I can continue working on the case because it was in draft. And in my admin's inbox. So click on another one. There you go. Oh, this one is the same as the other example. Okay, so you can just build your own dashlets using the custom drill down. Make sure you follow the rules. Like in this case, I'm getting the here. Like in this case, I'm getting the title, then I'm counting it, then I'm getting the variable for the next query, and I'm using this in the next query here. cancel this. Let's take a look to the other dashboards or dashlets. They have a dashlet SLA, but we are also going to take a look into our SLA plugin after this. And let's take a look here. Let's say bar. Let's say I'm gonna add task. Let's add SLA here like that. And let's say for everybody, for all users, all dates. Save it. Let's go back to dashboards. And let's see. Oh, I believe I don't have my plugin enabled. So let's go to plugins and look for the SLA plugin. Here it is at the bottom of the list, PM SLA. Let's enable it. That's it. Dashboards. There's my SLA. So at the moment we don't have any SLA configured. This is also an enterprise plugin, but we're going to do these settings. So we're going to add these settings after we finish with the dashboards. Okay, so let's go back here. Settings, dashboards. Okay, and let's create a new one. Let's see, open cases. Well, I believe this one is the one we already have here, open cases versus completed cases. You can change the values for this indicator here. Just edit the one we already have. Let's go back. Let's go here to dashboards. Edit open cases versus completed cases. Let's change this. Where it starts from 0 to 30. Let's make it 40. Make it 40 to 80, 80 to 100. Oh, my title. Okay. There you go, just change the values, right? From 0 to 40, 40 to 80, 80 to 100. Go back to the dashboards. Let's see, we have PM table. We already created that one, and we have all the other customized dashboards for community and feeder. Okay. So this is all with the dashboards we have here. We have our documentation. We have these samples we already applied. So it's, as you can see, it's really helpful to build a dashboard and to use a dashlet, and also to use a custom drill down dashlet. Okay, so let's get back to admin. Let's go back to the course. Let's close this. Here, and let's go to the next one, which is the KPIs, or the key performance indicators. And this is another kind of dashboards we can see in our process maker. This time will be based on these performance indicators built for process maker. We have actually these three. We have the process efficiency index, or PEI. We have the employee efficiency index, or EEI, and we also have the index status, which is IS. And you can take a look here that it would give us the performance of our processes, the performance of our employees based on the time and the expected time, and also the standard deviation for the process, and how long a process should take, how long the process actually takes, and the expected time for this process. We can also set the cost or savings, setting a cost for each hour for every user in our system, and these values will be applied in in the KPIs to determine if the users are being efficient, if you are actually having savings, or it's being a cost for a user. So let's take a look into these fields. These fields must be configured before you can use the KPIs, and we will find them in each user. We already see this. We already seen this when we're creating users. We'll take a look again. We can also add these units in the timing control for each task and for the process. Let's take a look into that. We're going to start with the users. So once we are here, well, let's first make sure we have the KPIs option enabled. As you can see in the under admin settings, we have KPIs here, the KPIs option. This option comes enabled with an enterprise license. So if we go to plugins and we go to enterprise manager, here we have the enterprise features, and you'll see we have our strategic dashboards, and dashboard will improve jargon graphics. This is the KPIs feature enabled here with the license. So we should go to settings and see we have the KPIs here. So we have here, oh, I have a test here. Let me remove this. Oh, sorry. We'll start from the beginning. So I'll remove this. To have this list. So let's start by setting our users, process, and tasks with timing control and cost and unit. So now let's go to users. I'm going to select my admin user because it's the one that has been working the most in my workspace. So let's open this user to edit it. And take a look here, we have two fields that are not required, but they are if you're going to use the KPIs. And it's the cost by hour, and the units. So let's say this is going to cost like 50 per hour, like that. And now set or click save. So I have now the cost for the admin user. Now let's go back to any process. For instance, I can use Dynaphone 1. I believe we have case. Let's see if we have any other process with cases. Yeah, we have process 4 and Dynaphone 1. We're going to set both. So let's say Dynaphone 1. Let's right click on any blank space to edit the process, and we'll set edit process. So here we have all the process properties. We still have to check all these options here, but the one we need to check into is the ones at the bottom. We have the cost of this process from the beginning to the end of this process. Could be like let's say 100. There will be the units. Let's save it. And we will do the same for the tasks. For instance, I can right click on task 1, go to properties, and take a look here on the left side of this screen. We have an option, timing control. Let's click on it. And here we have how long this task will last. In this case will be one day. By default, we can use an average, but the average, as you can see, is not editable, so this will come once we execute the KPIs, the performance indicators. So all will be the same for the standard deviation. And these values also need to be calculated running a cron job for these specific KPIs. That it will just get all these durations, we'll get the standard deviation and the average, and we'll fill these options here. Right now we don't have anything. We didn't run the cron job, so we won't have these values. We have the time unit, could be days, could be hours, could be working days or calendar days, and we can select a specific calendar here. In this case, we don't have any calendar. So I'm going to set this like 1 hour, working days. Okay, do the same here. I'll set properties, timing control, 1, let's say hours, work days, same. Okay, so now we have the task duration. We also have the process cost and unit, and we also have the task and unit for the users. Let's go back to our admin tab. Oh, save changes. Okay, admin tab. Now let's go to KPIs. If we click now on the KPIs tab on the top menu, we'll see we don't have any KPI created. So let's go to the admin and create a KPI. Click on KPIs. And here we have a list of the KPIs created. We have the title, your description, with assigned to this KPI, an update date, and the status of the KPI. We also have the management tools at the top. We can use the new button to create a new KPI. We will type dashboard title. I'll put KPI sample 1. This is my first KPI. Okay. Now I have the owner information. That means who will be able to see the KPI. So I can use admin. This is a suggest box. I can use any other user like Aaron Parks, maybe my dummy user, like that. Okay. As you can see, these are the users that will be able to use this KPI. And at the bottom of this screen, I can actually include the indicators to my KPI. So I have by default one indicator here. I cannot remove it because if I'm going to create an indicator, I must have at least one. So I'm going to add a title. Let's see. Below we have the drop down for the 3 types of indicators we can add. We have the Employee Efficiency Index, or EEI. We also have the IS for the index status, and the PEI for the Process Efficiency Index. Let's start with this Employee Efficiency Index. It will be employee. Since this is an employee efficiency, I need to select a process to evaluate how efficient this user is for this specific process. So let's use a Dynaform 1. That will be my process. Okay. I can add another indicator here, like this. Let's see, now will be process. Oh, this one was for employee. Okay, this is process. Let's select process 4. Let's see how that goes. Oh, we didn't set anything for process 4. Let's continue with Dynaforms 1. Then we're going to change to that process. So let's take process. And let's add one more, which will be the inbox status. And this will be inbox. Like that. Now let's save this KPI. There it is. I have my KPI created. It's active. And let's go to the KPIs tab. Okay, so let's take a look here. We have my inbox, I have my process, my employees. So I click on inbox. I should see the graphs below here. Let's take a look at the documentation like this. The inbox status with all the cases at risk, the employee efficiency, and the process efficiency. So I'm currently not seeing any values calculated here. It's just 0 and empty. And this is because I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here. And this is because KPIs requires cron to be executed. Right now we don't have the cron tab rule included in the server, so unless this runs, we won't be able to see the right values here. Or we'll only work for the inbox, right? Because the information is already there. But for the other cases, like the task average and the standard deviation, we need to run the cron job so it can be calculated. So we will see something like this in the console, get the right values calculated. We can also include some dates to run this cron job, so you can take a specific date to do the calculation and get the app duration here. So like I said, at the moment we won't be able to see this because of the cron job. so we can just see the KPIs, but once the cron job runs, this value will change and give us the results we expect. So this is very important for our processes in our company because we can identify where the process is not working as expected or where the users are taking too much time to complete the task, and we can then take some decisions on how the process can be improved or how the user's work can be improved. Let's create another KPI. Oh, I'm going to configure this process 4. I have a lot of cases here. So I'm going to say edit process, add something like 200 for the process. Now let's add timing control. Okay, and I believe I had some tasks here. Let's see. Okay, let's see if that's enough. So let's go back to admin. Oh, cancel. Save changes. Okay. Admin, KPI. Just create a new one. Process 4. Set the admin. Add an indicator. Oh, let's say this one for inbox status. Inbox. This one. Let's remove this one. Okay. I'll save this. Now go to KPI. So take a look. We're seeing now just the inbox. We don't have the process efficiency, and we're not seeing the employee efficiency. Just change the size of this to big. So let's go back here. So I have the inbox. I have how many cases I have in one folder and in another folder. I can change my KPIs from this option at the top left corner. Right now seeing KPI for process 4. I can see KPI sample 1. Here it is. And like this. So if I click here, I'll see my inbox. Here it is. I see my draft cases. I click here, see all the cases. So again, we need the cron job to run so we can see all this process efficiency and employee efficiency values from the cases and the process we have. Okay, so this is for KPIs. Let's back here. This is how it would look once we run the cron job. You see all the calculations, cost of savings, efficiency index. And it's very important to take a quick or give a quick read into the indicators. Like here, and these are the conditions and the values you must check. So if a process efficiency index of 1 or more means that the efficiency is good. But if it's below 1, then this process can be improved. It will be the same for all the other indicators. So let's close this one and let's go back to the curves. Let's take a look to the service level agreement or the SLAs. Okay. And I have to get my workspace again. Okay. Okay, so the SLA plugin in Process Maker will give us the option to give a new level of control over the users and tasks that are not being finished in time. You can also add time penalty, and this will be set for each process or each user or each task in your process. So this is an enterprise plugin that is also based on a license. So in order to use it, we need to enable it. I believe we already enabled it for the dashboard samples. So here it is at the end of the list in the Enterprise Plugins Manager. So here's the PN SLA. We just need to enable it. And as you can see, we'll have a new option in this plugins list. So we have the Enterprise Manager, the Plugins Manager, and we also have the SLA option here, which is enabled with the plugin. Back here. Okay, so in order to get this plugin working, we need to click here on the new button. We'll see this screen. And let's take a look at it. You have the option to select any specific process that you need to control. I can use, for instance, this Dynaforms. Okay. Let's set a name for the SLA. There. Okay, I have my short description. I have a status to set if the SLA will be firing will be applied or if it will be inactive. Let's leave it active. Then we have the SLA type. It could be applied to the entire process. It could be applied to a single task or to multiple tasks. Let's say if we say to entire process, take a look, we'll have a duration here for the time the process should take, 1 day, 1 hour. We can change the value. This will be different if we select multiple tasks. We can set the first task or the starting task and the ending task. So in this case will be from task 1 to task 2. How long it should take, 1 hour or 1 day, or a specific task. You can select the name of the specific task and how long this task should take. Let's say task 2. Then we have a condition field below these options that will define and will set a condition that needs to be true in order to have the SLA executed. So if this condition is not true, then the SLA would not be applied. Only when this is true, the SLA will fire. So take a look here. We can add system variables. We can add process variables. We can add all the variables we need to a condition. And just set something like a condition and a specific condition. So for instance, we could say if first name is equals to John, then the SLA will be applied. We're not going to add a condition right now. Okay. and that's it. So the SLA will be applied when the task 2 takes more than 1 hour. No additional conditions. And we can also activate the penalty here. So you just need to set if it will be points or if it will be a currency. And you can set the value, for instance, 10 for each unit exceeded. Could be days, hours, say 1 hour. And let's say, okay, there's my SLA. I can just edit my SLA. I can delete my SLA rule. Go back here. Okay. And SLA reports actually will be generated once the cron job runs. So the cron job will give, go back up here, will calculate the penalties for the processes or for the tasks that we set in our SLA rule. But in this case, we will try to take a look into the reports. Let's go back here to plugins. And let's see if we have the option enabled. Okay, if we go to the home tab, you'll see we don't have a reports option here on the left side menu, on the cases menu. So in order to have the reports, and see the SLA reports, we need to enable another plugin here. So we need to go to plugins. Let's go to the enterprise plugins, and if you just go all the way down to the bottom, you'll find the PM reports plugin, which right now is disabled. I'm going to enable this plugin. There it is, now it's enabled. And if I go back to Home tab, I can now see the reports option at the end. Let's click on reports. And take a look here, we have the SLA report. We can select which SLA we need to see or we want to see. We can select dates, could be all, could be used. You could use any of these filters. Exceeded, not exceeded, or any other filter for the exceeded field. The status case could be all, and then you just need to click on generate report here. So right now I don't have a way to run the cron jobs, so I can't have this calculated. But once the cron job runs, this report will be filled. Here you can also filter again the data you have. You can see an SLA summary. And you can also export this to an Excel format or to a PDF. Let's take a look at this one. So here's my SLA summary, empty. Okay. You can create more SLA rules. You just need to click on new, select a new process, like SLA for process 4, say it's active, and the entire process. Click on save. Let's go to Home tab, Reports, and there you go. There you have the SLAs. Just generate your report. You can also remove the filters and generate a report for all the SLAs. So this is how you'll see the SLA reports. This is how it will look when you export your report. And that will be it for the SLA plugin. Let's go back to the curves, and now we can start with the report SLA's lab. So please start working on this lab, and I'll be back in around 15 minutes to continue the course. Okay, so let's continue with the course. We have our last point. It's not here listed in the architect course, but I'm going to open the link from our documentation page, which is wiki.processmaker.com/3.2/data reporting tools. This is the last topic we will see today. Okay, so data reporting tools is an enterprise plugin. That's what it's also included in enterprise license subscription, and it gives you or it allows you to create your own and customized reports that could be used as cases list, and it will also allow you to query any data in your process maker database and include it in a very highly customized report. It has more features than a regular report table, and it actually can include information from several report tables or several PM tables, and also the system tables in Process Maker. So let's take a look on how this works. Let's go to Process Maker. So in order to have this plugin working, we first need to enable it. So for this, we're going to click on Admin. Let's go to Plugins. Let's go to the Enterprise Manager, and you'll see you have the Data Reporting Tools option in the plugins list. That should be enabled. I'm going to disable it and enable it back again, like this. Okay, so there is. I now have the plugin enabled, and if you click on your Home tab, you'll find you have these new options on the cases list. You have the Data Reporting Tools folder, and you have the Scope, Report Designer, Report User, and Import and Export option. The reports is the one we already have and we were working with for the SLA plugin. So these four options are the new ones added added by the data reporting tools. So if some of your users, or maybe you're not seeing these options here, it could be because data reporting tools also includes 4 new permissions for all these elements, and that can be found in the users tab. You go to admin, users, go to roles. For instance, I'm going to use let's take a look into this my role. I'll click on permissions, click on edit permissions, and take a look into these permissions here. At the end, we have the report user, the report manager, and the report administrator. We also have the report SLA from the other plugin. And here's the other one, the report designer. So we have these 4 report permissions, which are report designer, administrator, manager, and user. So if you want the users to be able to use these options, you can just add these 4 permissions, or just add the necessary ones like report user. If maybe they don't need to design or administrate reports, they don't need these other permissions, just a report user. So I'm going to make sure I have these permissions for my admin role. Just click here on admin role permissions, and yes, I have all the permissions here. Open it for permissions. Okay, so that's why I'm able to see actually all these options here. We have the scope, designer, user, and export. So let's go to the first option, which is the scope, and let's take a look at the documentation here. We're going to actually follow all these settings we have. So data reporting tools not only installs and gives us these options in the user interface, it also includes different files in the system, in the server file system, and you can actually add some additional settings and customize the plugin for your company or for your organization. For instance, the first file we have is the skin config.ini or .ini, which allows you to add a custom skin to your data reporting tools and to your reports, so it could follow different color lines or different styles for your organization. We also have the variables config.ini file that will allow you to use system variables or global variables inside your reports, inside the queries for your report, so it can be built dynamically or based on one of these variables value coming from the system, like the user log or the skin that is being used or the workspace name. And it also has this white tables list ini file that will allow you to query system tables from Process Maker. So by default, in version 3, Process Maker has blocked all the system tables, so that means you can't query these tables, you can't edit the information in these tables, or even retrieve the data. This is because security matters, so you just can't query PM tables or report tables. But if you need to include these system tables, you just need to edit this whitelist tables file, and you can add the table name you need to include in your data reporting tools. So here in the documentation, you'll find the path where these files are stored in your server. So let's assume Process Maker is installed in any custom directory. Then you have Process Maker, Workflow Engine, Plugins, Data Reporting Tools, and then you have config, a config folder. And there you'll find all these files where you can configure the skin, the variables, and the white tables list. So once you have all this configured, you can then go to create your reports. So as you can see, here we have the 4 permissions that we talked just a minute ago. And then let's take a look into how this will work. So data reporting tools have also implemented 4 security levels. So here's the security architecture built for this plugin. So the first level is to just include all the information from PM tables and report tables, not the system tables, unless you enable the whitelist file. Then you have the report scope, which is another level of security, and this is a subset of data stored in a view inside the database, inside the Process Maker's database. And this will be a subset of data that the users or designers can use to build custom reports. So this will be based on what an administrator has selected to be able to build reports for the other designers. So then you have the report for all the report users, and in this case, this level will only allow a user to see cases from report tables in the reports, but only cases where this user has participated in, not for all the users. And there's one more level where you can set a user to be manager of a group of users, and in this case, the user will be able to see all the cases. It doesn't matter if the user hasn't participated in those cases. Since it's a manager, he will be able to open those cases and see the data in the report, in the data report, the data reporting tool report. So let's start by creating a report. So we're going to use one of our report tables. We have the ones for the Dynaform's process, Dynaform 1 process, I believe. So let's start by creating this report. Let's go back here and let's start by creating a scope. Like I said, this is a subset of data that an administrator has to select. So let's enter a name here. Let's say scope sample 1. Text. You can add a short description. So next. So now we can include all the tables that will be included in this subset of data. So I can use all these tables. If you take a look here, I have some tables coming from the system, such as users and application. And this is because these tables were included in the whitelist for this server. And if you remember in some other examples, we used this users table. So this is actually unlocked. So that's why we were able to use it. We can use application, users, and we can also use this. Now I believe it was report 1. We can use this one. You can just click on the table you need to use, and it will be added below. And you can see you have all the fields that you can add to your scope. Let's also add application. Then you can select all the fields you need to add. Say app number. No, I think we have app number here. Yes. Let's add app in. You can add app finish date. That you can add all the tables you need to, and this data will be included in this scope subset of data. You can add a join. So you can select one of the tables like report 1 and application. I'll use app UID like that. You can add more joins. I'll remove this one. You can add a specific filter. Select table, application, or PM report. Select the column, last name, condition equals, and value. Let's say I believe admin is the last name for my user. Let's save it. That's it. And now I have one scope created using this wizard. But if you don't want to use the wizard and you need a specific query, then you can edit the SQL here. This will tell you that it will change to manual mode. And as you can see, here's the query generated. You can edit this one, or you can paste your own query. You can also click on preview. It looks like there's no items to display. Let's go back to the wizard. Yes. Okay. Then maybe because of the filter, let's see. Let's click on preview. Okay, there's some data. Last name. Okay, my last name. Let's add the filter. This was for last name. I'll save it. Let's see the preview. There it is. Okay, so I have my scope ready. I'll click on next. And now I'm going to set the users that will be able to work in the report, that will be able to see the report. If you take a look on the left side, I have the report designer and the report user. So this one is for report user, and the other one will be for report designer. So let's add some users here, like the admin. You can add more users or a group of users. Okay, more users. We can also add the report designer. In this case, I'm just going to add the admin. So I will be able to work on the design of my report. And that will be it. I'll finish my scope here. There's my scope. I can create more scopes using the create button or edit the scope. Search my scope. I have the report designer. Okay, I don't have any report design here, so I'm going to create one. Now here I have to select the scope I just created. It will be scope example 1. Report name will be report 1. This is report 1. Click on next. And here I'll be able to select which tables I would like to see in this report. And this is only the fields and the columns that are coming from the scopes I just created. So this is another subset coming from the scope. So I can select here like all the fields. I can add an alias if I want to, like last name, case number, case UID, case status, case finish date, case thing. I can also add filters here. I can use variables, but remember, in order to use variables, the variables should have been added in the variables config ini file. So in this case, I won't be able to use any variable. I'll close filters screen. Take a look at the preview. There it is. That's the report. That's how I'm going to give. Change this. Finish. Okay. And I'll click on next. Now this will be the list of users that will be able to see the report. As you can see, this list is based on the report user that I selected in while I was creating the scope. So now I can just select, let's say, employees, managers, and the admin. Okay, so this user won't be able to see the reports, but these groups and these users will be. So there's another field here. We have the manager of column. As you can see here. So this is the other level of security that we talked about a minute ago. So right now, these users and including the admin will be able to see cases, but only from cases where they have participated in. But if I need, for instance, the admin to see cases not only from the admin, but for all these users, or these or all users, you can set here the manager of option. So add manager could be, let's say, employees here, the manager here. So that means that any user in this group will be able to see any case from any of these users. So next. And now I have this gadget option that will allow me to build a chart or a quick gadget for my data reporting tools. I can use two types. I have table and I have charts. Take a look into table. I can tell which data will be grouped by. Say we can use last name, page size, and the default order to be last name. Okay, send them. You can also add a filter. Take a look at the preview. There it is. I have this table in the gadget. Finish this. There's my report. And then I can just go to report user. The admin was added to the report users list. So I can just come to the report user and now see the report. There it is. That's the report. That's the information in the report. I can export this information. There it is. Let's check this file. So here it is. This is the exported report. Go back. Let's modify the report. Let's see if we can change the gadget. Chart type could be bar, last name, and let's add case number. Preview. There it is. I have my report here, and there it is. I can also export this to an image file. This, and I can return to report. And the last option we have here is the import export for my scope. So I can just click on this option here to export my configuration and my scope. I can also select a specific scope. I can select my scope definition and the report included in the scope. Select all or unselect just this. Let's just export the scope definition. Now we'll export this. Okay, so take a look at this. This will export a PMT file. And this file can be imported in any other process maker system by clicking on import, file, upload, and I have just imported my scope. There it is. Well, the only change because I just created. So we can do the following. Let's remove this. Oh well, okay. Yeah, this is because I just imported this scope and it overrided the existing one. Okay, and this is all we have for the data reporting tools. Here, I'm gonna paste this link in the shared document. Here it is. Okay, so now you can start working in the last lab for today, which is the lab data reporting tools. And now we're back in around 10 minutes, and then we'll continue with the quiz, and that will be it for today. Okay, so let's take a look into the quiz. And first question is it's possible to define multiple dependent fields related to the same web control? And that is true. You can set more than one control to be dependent on another single web control. It's possible to use data from a PM table to define the set of options in a drop-down web control. That's true. That's what we've been doing using the ISO country tables, and it's the same behavior for PM tables and also report tables. It's possible to export a PM table data as a CSV file. That's also true. That's the example we did. While adding a new field to a PM table structure, it's possible to define collation size, type, field name, default value, and field label. Well, in this case will be the field name, the field label, the size, and the type. Then we have export case data to be easily queried into Dynaform fields and shared with external reporting tools. Those are the report tables because it stores all the cases data. And the last one, it's possible to include an SQL query in a variable definition. Yes, it could be included at the moment a variable is being created, so that is true. And let's finish this attempt. Submit all and finish. And that's it. Let's finish the review. Okay. Okay guys, so that's all for today. Please let me know if you have any question. If you don't, then we'll see us again tomorrow. Okay, so it looks there are no questions, so that will be it. Have a good day and we'll talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.